Hello, everyone. What's going on? This is the Noah Gillian Show, and I, of course, am your host, Noah Gillian. So happy decided to join back in today. Joining me again for the National League, our last episode of the preview series, Josh Arnold and Connor Laverty. Boys, welcome back. I won't waste your time too much with the formalities, so we're just going to get right into it. Before we do, though, if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you're watching along on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please drop that 5-star review. But otherwise, we're just going to get right into it. You can find the handles to our social medias in the description below. So we're going to start off with the NL West in this episode, or finish up with the NL West, I should say. And starting off, we're going to start in Arizona with the Diamondbacks. This is a team, guys, that I'm pretty excited about, honestly, coming into this year, whether you're talking about young pitching or young hitting. There's a lot of ways to go here. I'll talk about one guy just to start, and then I'll pass it over to you guys. I'm really, really excited to see Corbin Carroll, number one prospect, number two prospect overall. We talked about him a little bit on the prospects episode, but this is a guy who is just absolutely monstrous. The fastest player in all of Major League Baseball. Showed a lot of pop last year too, even though he's only 5'9". They have had him hitting like fifth or sixth in a lot of games toward the end of the spring. So I don't know if that's just like they're going to slot him there and make him earn his way up to the top of the lineup, but he is the prototypical leadoff hitter, and putting him in front of a number of the other masters that they have in their lineup, I think is the best way to kind of utilize his skills. So I'll swing it to you guys. Josh, I'll come to you first. What excites you most about this young Diamondbacks team?
Honestly, I like you said, Corbin Carroll. I love Corbin Carroll. I think the Jake McCarthy though. Jake
Yeah.
McCarthy is a name that not a lot of people have been talking about. Young guy, had a decent year last year. I think he's due for a pretty decent breakout. Also, the addition of Lourdes Gurriel and Kyle Lewis is another interesting one. Former Rookie of the Year, Kyle Lewis, kind of hit a wall in Seattle. I think he tore his MCL or his ACL or something hurt his knee, and was
Yep.
out for most of the year, and has never really bounced back with Seattle. So gets a new look, fresh face, new team. Um, I think I think he's going to start out off the bench. Maybe playing just against lefties. I'm excited to see what he can do. And then also Alec Thomas, another really young name, good prospect. I think he played a little bit last year. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then the pitching staff, Zach Gallen. I think Zach Gallen is a bona fide ace. I think he is a number one for sure. And then besides that, Merrill Kelly, not bad. Bumgardner, not 2014 Bumgardner anymore. His fastball just doesn't have it anymore. And then, but a young name that I do like is Ryan Nelson. I think Ryan Nelson has a good year. He came up last year. I think he had 3 or 4 starts, through to like a low 2 ERA. Looked pretty decent. He's just turned 25. Yeah, I think he is a nice little breakout watch for the Diamondbacks if he stays healthy.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, they got a number of young arms. Obviously, Madison Bumgardner hasn't been the most durable, at least late in his career. Merrill Kelly, also like you mentioned, pushing 35 years old. So there's a couple of young guys. One guy, Brandon Pfaadt, who almost made the rotation out of spring training, was absolutely dominant last year in the minors, threw over 200 innings, I believe had over 200 strikeouts in the minors. So they got a number of guys. Dre Jameson's another young arm they got coming up. So they got a number of guys to kind of supplement that rotation, along with the gains they made in the batting lineup. So I think that's going to be really, really good. Con, they made a big trade this offseason with the Toronto Blue Jays. They sent away their catcher, Dalton Varsho, and they got a nice little package of players back. Do you think that those guys are going to be needle movers for their lineup this year?
I do. I like Gabriel Moreno a lot. I do. You teed me up with that question, and I'm gonna hit it out the park. He's gonna hit 300. Bold prediction, maybe not that bold because his hit tool is elite. His bat to ball contact is great. He's very solid behind the plate as well. Really, really like Moreno, and I assume you guys saw, but Carson Kelly, who was gonna be taking time from him behind the plate,
Right.
just fractured his forearm and had surgery a little over a week ago. So Moreno's going to be in there just about every day. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what he can do. He's only 23. Really, really like Moreno. He's hit at every level he's been at. Moreno over 300 average this year.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly who I was going for. Also, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. It was the other name they got back from Toronto. So I think they just lengthened out their lineup a lot. Obviously, Christian Walker has been having a good power year last year. I expect him to have another good power year this year. A guy they claimed off waivers from the Reds about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So that's been a great developmental story. I think also all of us are kind of expecting a bounce back from Ketel Marte. A guy a number of years ago was an all-star, I believe, a couple of years ago for the Diamondbacks. Maybe he wasn't an all-star, but was playing at that type of level. And I think now with, the young guys starting to come up, maybe taking some of the shine away from Ketel Marte, because he's on a big money deal to stay in Arizona. So I think taking a little bit of weight off his shoulders will be crucial for him, and we'll see kind of how they go. But what's the win total here for the up-and-coming D-backs, Con?
74.5.
Now they won 74 last year, so it's a great line.
I'm going to pose this.
Let's
the
hear it.
Marlins is 76.5. Obviously the pitching on the Marlins is better, but I think the Diamondbacks lineup's better.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I would probably take that lineup over them, definitely. Yeah, over. I think I would go over, because I think another team we're going to talk about next, or in two teams, I think is going to take a step back. So I could see the D-backs going over that 74.5. I think I like the over.
I'm going to take the unders because that pitching staff with Merrill Kelly, Madison Bumgarner, and Zach Davies kind of scares me with those. I mean, I like Ryan Nelson. I love Zach Allen, but when 3 out of 5 scare you, I got to take the under, I think.
Very fair. And
be up soon, hopefully.
Yeah. But their bullpen, nothing to really write home about. So I think that's going to be a big thing too. All right, well, let's move on to the perennial dominant team out west, the Los Angeles Dodgers. There's been a lot of hate spewed the Dodgers' way this offseason, that there's a new king out west. They lost a lot of players. I think this team is still the Dodgers, and they're still going to contend to win 100 games this year. Maybe not 100, but probably 95 plus. Their lineup is still ridiculous. Their pitching staff is actually sneaky good, even though they've lost a number of names over the last couple of years. So I'll come to you first, Con. I'm trying to think of a good way to pose a question about this team. I'll pose this. Are they the favorite in this division coming into the year?
I think so.
Okay. I think that's kind of hot taking now. I
think they still just have a lot of pieces that you can't really overlook. Mookie Betts is just, probably one of the top 10 players in all of baseball. Freddie Freeman is right there if he's not one of the top 10 best players in all of baseball. So you can talk about having 2 of them, and then you back it up with guys like Will Smith, who's one of the best 2 or 3 catchers in all of baseball. Max Muncy, who I really, really like on a bounce back this year, versatile infielder, can play anywhere, draws a lot of walks. JD Martinez, a guy who they acquired this offseason from Boston. I know a lot of people like him this year. He's a guy who could hit 20, 25 homers. He's hit 35 and maybe even 40 in his career before. They signed David Peralta, who's a guy I've always liked. He's getting older, obviously. He's not quite the player he was, but he's solid. And with the other guys in that lineup, he's in a good position to succeed. One guy I really like is Miguel Vargas. I know, Noah, you really like him a lot too. This guy's just got another young guy with a great hit tool, a lot more power than Gabriel Moreno. And he's versatile too. He can play kind of anywhere in the infield. So I think Miguel Vargas, hot take here, Miguel Vargas, Rookie of the Year in the NL.
Wow.
Don't hate it.
Yep.
Don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Corbin Carroll is going to be the clubhouse leader, and Jordan Walker actually is the betting favorite as of now. But interesting, definitely interesting take. Obviously he's on my dynasty fantasy team, so I love Miguel Vargas. Going to be starting at second base too for them. Obviously the injury to Gavin Lux is a big reason why, but I think he's going to be a monster. What about this rotation, Josh? Urias is probably going to be their ace coming into the year, but they still got Kershaw there. But they're also dealing with some injuries. So do you think they're going to be able to patch together a rotation, with the likes that we've seen the last couple of years out there?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, like as you stated, they still have Urias, they still have Kershaw. You know what you're going to get from those two for the most part.
Mhm.
Urias just so low key, so under the radar. Been sub 2.5 ERA, I believe, the last 2 years with over 150 innings in both years. Just
Shoves
elite,
innings, dude.
elite stuff that's not talked about very much. It's kind of hidden, was hiding in Walker Bueller's shadow the last couple of years, to be honest. Now with
Mhm.
Walker Bueller out, he could, be prone, be a bigger star than he is now, or under a brighter light.
Yep.
And a guy that I really love is Dustin May. I'm just a little nervous about for in terms of fantasy purposes of his volume, is how much they're really going to throw him coming off Tommy John. But I think he's as good as advertised. His stuff is unbelievable. That sinker slider combo is almost second to none. Big frame, big dude, tough arm angle. Then you have, they signed Syndergaard, who saw he did in Philly last year. He was okay. The velo is not what he used to be. It's never probably going to be back there again. But he's serviceable. He's going to throw you 100 innings minimum, and throw to probably a low four ERA, which that plays. But I think they're really really going to miss Bueller, and then the addition of Ryan Pepio, who was up a little bit last year, struggled a little bit. Very very good changeup. Should settle into the role nicely, honestly. And then a guy that we didn't mention in the lineup, James Outman, who I think might be playing center field. There might get the starting opening day center field job.
Yep.
Came up and was very good last year and limited up. I mean, coming at 25 at bats, but looked the part and really good hit tool, hits for power. So yeah, excited to see what the Dodgers, how their starting rotation, how they fare without Bueller, and how the lineup fares without Trey Turner.
Yeah, honestly, losing Trey is going to be a big loss for them. But, I still think we talked about this a little bit when we were talking catchers with Adley Rutschman. Will Smith is just such a monster behind the plate. Taking that big step, I think, is going to be kind of big. I think they're kind of betting on their development too, with a lot of these younger guys. And then their bullpen, I'm looking at Fangraphs, their roster resource. They got Evan Phillips as the number 26 power rank reliever. Like some guy who you never would have thought of would rate that well. It is really, really up there. Obviously, they don't have Kenley Jansen anymore. I mean, he's been gone for a couple of years, but they still have a lot of good guys. Brusdar Gratterall is a name to keep in mind. There was rumors that he might just be the closer for that team moving forward. Obviously, they're still going to rotate, but a guy with just electric stuff. So I could still see them winning this division easily, but we'll get to a team soon that I think is going to have something to say about that. So Dodgers, they won 111 games last year. What is their total for this year?
95.5. So they're tied with the highest win total in baseball with the Houston Astros.
I like the Dodgers better than the Astros.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I might like the Astros better. Who do you like better between those two, Con?
That's really tough. I think I especially at the current state with Altuve and Brantley out, I definitely like the Dodgers lineup better.
And McCullers down too in the rotation.
Yep.
All
But
fair.
I really do like the Astros rotation, especially because like Hunter Brown slides in. I don't think I know McCullers is nasty when he's good, but like Hunter Brown's pretty solid too.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. I think I like the Dodgers a little bit more.
Oh, I also forgot to mention Tony Gonsolin. He's gonna be out for the first month or a couple months.
He was a sub-3 ERA guy last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be remiss to mention that I think the AL West is also much better than the NL West. So I think the Dodgers have more wins than the Astros. I agree.
Okay. All right. That's fair. All right. Let's move on to the Giants. San Francisco had over 100 wins 2 years ago out of nowhere, came back down to earth a little bit, finished 500 last year. Made a couple acquisitions, but nothing like really, really crazy. Obviously, their big one was Michael Conforto. Sat out all year last year dealing with an injury, and ended up just waiting to test the market this year. Ended up getting a 1-year deal with the Giants, and he's going to slot right in the middle of that lineup. I just don't really like this lineup. I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. I think they are a major team that is looking to maybe disappoint this year. Maybe I'm just not seeing, what they can do. I like their pitching a lot more, but what's there really to write home about in this lineup? I'm just not really seeing it.
I mean, the Giants had probably the saddest offseason in recent history. All the talk about them getting Aaron Judge, thought they were getting Judge, this and that.
They got Arson Judge though, right?
I believe what's that?
Remember what John Heyman tweeted Arson Judge to the Giants.
Yeah. They got baited and then and then they signed Carlos Correa just for it to fall through again, so it's just a heartbreaking offseason for the Giants looking at their lineup now for what it could have been and what it turned out to be. It kind of sucks. But the only person really Mitch Haniger's, going to be back shortly, I believe.
Yeah.
Like you said, no, other than, the Conforto edition, you have Jock Peterson, Brandon Crawford's been there forever. You know what you're going to get from him. Mm-hmm. Hopefully maybe a bounce back here from Joey Bart, highly regarded prospect who hasn't really, lived up to expectations. But yeah, like you said, no, not much to like about the lineup. Even though Mike Krzyzewski, what you're going to get.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think with the rotation though and the bullpen, there's a lot more to like, and this could maybe be where they pick up some wins. Con, if you have any name in particular, feel free to jump in. Obviously they're led by Logan Webb as their ace. They made a couple of pickups this offseason, and it really just bolstered it up. So what do you think about this rotation as a whole there, Con?
I think it's solid. Webb, I think, is definitely going to regress. He's a guy who he had a pretty good year last year, but when you look under the hood, his expected ERA was almost a whole run higher than his actual ERA. So I think he's definitely going to regress a little bit. He doesn't have like that elite stuff. I don't think he's quite a number one starter. I think Cobb is a guy who's going to excel in that field. He kind of did at the end of last year, and I think as long as he can stay healthy, he could be solid for them. Minaya and Stripling were the two free agent signs for the rotation. I like both of them. Manaya's shown that he can be more than serviceable, but he's also shown that he is not good too. So I'm kind of interested to see what version of Minaya we get out here in San Fran. And then I really do like Stripling. Almost a little bit more than Minaya. Okay. I don't know why, but he's been around for a while, and he's kind of always pitched decently well, no matter where he's been. He was with the Dodgers solid, and then last year, I believe, with Toronto. So rotation is solid, but nothing pops. They're all like 3 through 5 starters, in my opinion. Like even Logan Webb, I may be lower on Logan Webb than most, but I think he's like a 3rd starter. Like I don't think he's anything better than that. So
yeah, I mean, Logan Webb's fine. I mean, he doesn't, blow you away necessarily with velo or anything like that, but definitely a guy who can spin it. So you appreciate that, especially, and pitching in that ballpark, obviously the pitchers are going to look a lot better. Limits barrels was in the 78th percentile in barrel percentage, so there's some interesting stuff there. But like you said, under the hood, I mean, 39th percentile in average exit velocity, 41st percentile in hard hit percentage, so like 35th percentile in K percentage. So I think those all just kind of illustrate your point that he's not quite there. Their bullpen, though, with Camilo Duvall and Taylor Rogers, is probably as good of a lefty-righty combo as there is in the bigs. Duvall is just filthy. And then they also they brought in Taylor Rogers. They also paired him with his brother, Tyler Rogers. So I think that's just kind of like a cool baseball thing. They're both shoved too. Tyler obviously does it from the submarine angle, and Taylor kind of does it from the sidearm. So they're pretty much way out on different ends of the planet there. But yeah, I think the bullpen is really, really good. You know how Gabe Kapler likes to work too, and their research and development team there, they really, lean into the analytics. So they're going to get the best out of their pitchers, which is why, maybe they're going to take bets on Logan Webb can outperform his expectations, or Minaya can outperform his expectations. So I think I always bet on the Giants to pitch, generally better than they might be, but they just haven't really seemed to do that with hitters. So that's where I'm kind of going off. They do have Kyle Harrison, an arm that could potentially debut this year. So that's another interesting name into the pitching development. We'll see what else happens there. But what's the win total, Con, we got for these guys?
San Francisco Giants is 81.5.
See, like, I'll take the under.
I'm taking the over because they always somehow win more games, dude. They always.
Do you
just
think
figure
they'll
out a
finish
way.
better than the Diamondbacks? Like, you like their team better
Yes.
than the Diamondbacks?
I don't like their team better than the Diamondbacks, but I think they're just going to win more games. I mean, look at that roster. It was last year, right, where they won like almost 100 games, and you look
2
at
years ago, yeah.
2 years ago. We look at that roster like, who is even on this team, and
It's
how are
true.
they winning this many games? I mean,
That's true.
they had some decent pieces, but I feel like it's just one of those organizations that always is just in the playoff hunt or in the wild card hunt, and they're just always kind of sneaking around.
Yeah. I definitely think it's a good take.
Low key, I think Sean Manaea could have the best year of any pitcher on this staff. I think I was reading a bunch. He went to Driveline. His velo was up like 3 or 4 miles an hour. He's back up in the mid 90s. He's not down in the low 90s anymore. And he's, we saw what he was in Oakland, when he was healthy. Pretty damn good pitcher.
Yeah.
A little higher on Logan Webb than Khan is, but I think Sean Manaea, if he stays healthy and there's 175 innings, and Logan Webb throws 175 innings, I think Manaea Manaea's going to have a better year. Just
They're similar pitchers too. I feel like kind of sinker ballers, with some breakers off of that, but that's kind of what you want. I mean, like I said too, with the ballpark, I mean, it's such a great pitcher's park that those guys always really look good. So, yeah, I think we're kind of we got a good take on the Giants. Now let's go to the team that I was talking about that is going to challenge the Dodgers. A lot of people think are the favorite in the entire National League, the San Diego Padres. Obviously, they go out and they sign Xander Bogaerts to a big money deal. They have arguably as a group of four, maybe not arguably, they have as a group of four, they have the best 4 hitters in Xander Bogaerts, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, and when he comes back, Fernando Tatis Jr. I don't think there's a team in the league that can compete with that top 4. But it's not just those hitters either, too. Their staff is loaded with arms as well. Their bullpen is loaded. I guess the question I'll pose to ours, because we love a lot of their players and we can talk specifically about certain players. Should they be the favorite in the National League to win the pennant this year? Josh, I'll come to you first. Do you think they should be the favorite in the National League?
On paper, they absolutely look like the favorite, 100%. And I think they probably should be. I think
Okay.
if Bryce was healthy, I think it probably would be the Phillies. I think that might be, maybe that's biased. I don't know. Probably not. But
I agree.
Yeah, I think right now, I think right now you have to give the Padres a nod over the Dodgers.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. What do you think, Con?
Yeah, the pitching scares me a little.
Does it?
Me too.
Wow. Okay.
Love Musgrove. I'm not worried about him. He'll be back. And I'm not worried about you. Snell is very up and down. When he's up, he's very good, but we'll see. And then after that,
yeah, I agree.
I don't know. So that's the one thing holding me back. I agree the lineup's great. I think the bullpen is at least above league average, especially with Josh Hader anchoring it. So they're obviously a great team, obviously going to be a playoff team, win a ton of games, and that lineup is stupid. So yeah, but I am going to keep a close eye on the starting pitching.
I actually think the bullpen's pretty bad aside from Hader.
Okay.
Aside from Hader and maybe Luis Garcia. But
yeah.
I think
not a lot of names in there that are jumping out.
I mean, that scares me. I mean, Ryan Weathers has potential. He came up really young at like 19 or 20 and threw some sufficient innings for him a couple of years ago.
Right.
He's not a bad long reliever. He's really young. But other than that, other than Hader, like they lose Taylor Rogers, excuse me. They lose Dinelson Lamet, who threw some random innings, who had a bunch of potential. But yeah, that bullpen scares me a little bit.
Yeah, they will get some help. Probably back with Robert Suarez, who pitched a lot of big innings for them last year. Famously, was the pitcher on the bump for the Bedlam at the Bank. And then Drew Pomeranz had flexor tendon surgery in 2021, and he's still on the injured list. So, who knows, what's going to happen with Pomeranz, but he's still solid. So we'll see what happens. But he hasn't pitched in 3 years, or 2 years. So we'll see. But, I think Robert Suarez will add to that definitely. But yeah, you guys are right. Honestly, the bullpen, not quite great. That's an area though that can be addressed at the deadline. So I think if that's your weakest spot, your lineup set, for the rotation, with you guys were saying, I mean, your top 3 are pretty much solidified. I know Blake Snell's up and down, but you and Musgrove are pretty solid. I like Nick Martinez. I think he's solid. He showed a little bit in the World Baseball Classic. Michael Wacha's a solid 5th guy. He's nothing crazy. Seth Lugo, I think is actually pretty solid too. I mean, he's a reliever and a pitcher and wants to be more of a starter. So that's why he kind of moved away from the Mets. I don't know. I see a little potential in the back end of the starting rotation, which is why I think I'm kind of leaning that way. But go ahead.
I don't know. I was saying, like, now that I look at it more, I honestly, when Musgrove comes back, I wouldn't hate, Seth Lugo, you can go pitch where we need you. Go to the bullpen. Make him bring him to the bullpen, and then I wouldn't hate it as much. But yeah, I think my favorite part about this lineup that I didn't mention was the Matt Carpenter, Nelson Cruz platoon at DH. Like 80 years of age between the two, and they are going to platoon DH.
Dude, it's saying original awesome. On Fangraphs, they have the original signing info. February of 1998. He got signed to be a professional baseball player before I was even born. Like this guy is such a stud. Boomstick, baby. Oh,
awesome.
So I like that. That's a great point. Austin Nola behind the plate, solid option there. Ha-Seong Kim at second base. We're waiting for him to kind of show up after they got brought over from the Korean league. So we'll see. But I think we're all kind of in agreement. They're going to go as the lineup goes. So we'll see how that kind of goes. What's the win total, Con? It's got to be high.
It is 93.5.
I'd take the over.
Yeah, I'd lean over there. I think I lean over there.
Actually, no, I'm gonna go under.
Okay.
And what was the Dodgers? 95.5?
Yep.
That's interesting. Honestly, I could see them both going over, but I digress. All right, let's move on from the Padres, and let's just wrap up real quick with the Rockies. It's the last team in the entire MLB preview we're doing, and we might not have found a worse team to go. But there is a guy on this team, Con, who, when we've been talking in the preseason, that you're kind of banking on a bounce back from, in the form of Chris Bryant. What do you like about him coming back?
I like that he's done this before. He's had like a good year, and then he's came back with like an injury riddled year, and a poor year, and then he bounced right back again. So I expect him to be able to do it again. He's a guy who's a former MVP, like 39 home runs, nearly a 300 batting average, like 35 doubles. This guy was like really, really good. He for reference, he hit 29 homers, 73 ribbies, 295 average. Then the next year dropped down to 13 homers in only 100 games. Bounced back the next year with 31 homers. I like him on a bounce back this year, and I love where he's playing in Coors Field. I think that's only going to help his totals. Now the lineup around him is a whole nother story, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris Bryant hit 30 homers in Coors this year.
Yeah, when he signed there, I was kind of like, all right, I'm ready to see the offensive pop, and then the injuries have just kind of been holding him back, and hasn't been. They're still trotting Chuck Nasty out there at the DH spot. So would love to see that. Crone, I mean, is solid there. Guy I wanted to talk about too, Ryan McMahon. Shout out Dose. But I think he's really going to take a step forward this year. I think I was reading or listening to a podcast. They were really talking about how he's focusing more on pulling the ball and getting out in front of the ball. And in Colorado, I think if he really starts to focus on pulling his fly balls and really starts to worry about getting there, instead of being more of a spray hitter, which you can kind of get away with in Coors, I think he could really pop off. He could be their all-star representative if Chris Bryant kind of gets hurt and all that stuff. I think he could be in for a big year. in Colorado. So we'll see there. What else do you like about this team? Because there is actually some interesting things, Josh, going on with the Rockies that I didn't think about.
Well, first of all, it's a shame that Brendan Rodgers goes down. I think he was
Yeah.
pretty tuned for a big year, for a breakout year.
Yep.
Former number 3 overall pick, I believe. But yeah,
Yep.
And Randall Grichuk's still down as well. So they have a couple guys that'll make, freshen up some point we'll come back this year and freshen up the lineup a little bit. But yeah, Mike Moustakas coming off the bench is just kind of funny. He's just kind of been bouncing around. They're probably paying him a bag still from Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's paying it actually. But yeah, that rotation leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, Kyle Freeland had a great year 2 years ago, I believe, but he just hasn't been the same. Herman Marquez is a nice arm.
I like Marquez.
I do like Marquez, a nice arm. But all these guys' ERAs are just so inflated from pitching, half their games at Coors Field. It's Austin Gomber, the big piece in the Nolan Arenado trade, has been a big fat bust. It's really made the Arenado trade look even worse on the Rockies organization. The bullpen's not bad. Justin Lawrence is up, absolutely nasty. Not really a known name.
Yeah.
But Daniel Bard, older, but he pitched decent at World Baseball Classic. They have some serviceable bullpen arms. Brad Hand, Dinelson Lamet. They have some bullpen arms. But yeah, that starting rotation is a little scary.
Yeah, I like Dinelson Lamet too. I think that's an interesting flyer they took from. He got traded to Milwaukee and then they signed him off waivers last year. So it's an interesting guy. Yeah, one more guy I did want to talk on, Ezekiel Tovar, shortstop coming up for them. Selfishly, he's on my dynasty team, so of course I'll feel positive about him. But I think they're actually giving him a chance to play every day, which they haven't really been doing with their prospects in Colorado. So I hope that they're starting to change the way they kind of go about their prospects and giving their guys a little extra leash. Another guy, Zach Veen, they have in the minors. I mean, he's in Double-A this year, but like, if you're going to suck, why not get these guys some exposure if they're ready? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if they're not ready, don't bring them up. But in a guy in Tovar, they see that he's ready. They see that he can contribute. Just let him go. Don't worry about service time. Don't worry about any of that stuff. So I think that, I hope, is something that they can build on and really work with. So what's their win total, Con?
It is 65.5.
Under.
Yeah. I love the under there. But I don't know. They won 68 last year.
Under. I will say, I mean, I do really like the future of this Rockies lineup. A lot of young bats that if they pan out, they could be pretty decent. The Ezekiel Tovar, as you mentioned, Zach Veen, as you mentioned, Adiel Amador is probably 3 or 4 years out. Young switch hitting shortstop, great hit tools, going to walk more than he strikes out. Drew Romo, good catcher behind the plate. Benny Montgomery. There's
a lot
nice
to like
bats to look forward to in Colorado, especially with that field and the way the ball flies.
Definitely. All right, so we're running out of time on our episode here, but let's do a quick round. Breakout player in the NL West. Let me get one guy from each of you, and we'll get through it real quick. Con, who you got?
I got 2. Miguel Vargas.
Damn, you took
NL,
mine.
I told you, I said NL Rookie of the Year. I already said it earlier.
All right.
And Gabriel Moreno, 300 average. Those are my 2.
All right, Josh, what do you think?
I'm going Jake McCarthy.
Okay, so we got 2 D-backs. D-backs. All right.
And I stole yours.
I'm on tilt now. I'm on tilt trying to find someone. I was gonna go Vargas. Corbin Carroll's too much of an easy cop out. You know what? I'm going with Corbin Carroll. I think I think he could definitely. I think he's got the MVP or Rookie of the Year outside of Jordan Walker. I think he's got that. They're going to be a 2-horse race. I think he could challenge for MVPs in a couple years. So I think he's really going to break out onto the national scene and be more of a household name than just in the prospect realm or just in the the diehard fans. So that's going to wrap up our NL West talk, and that's going to wrap up the MLB preview for our 3rd year. Appreciate you guys jumping on and joining in this year. Josh, first time. We hope to have you back next year.
Absolutely.
When we talk a little bit more and And then obviously as the season starts up and goes on, we'll be back on talking baseball and giving our on takes on what's happening with the new rules, with the new signings and everything that's going on in the likes. But for this episode, that is going to wrap it up. Feel free also to shoot us any messages if you guys have it. Our handles for our social medias are in the description below. So thank you guys tuning in again, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here again next time.